Hello my fellow Retromaniacs and welcome to Let's Read Pokémon Blue for Game Boy. Trainer's Guide. In other words, the manual. So yeah, I was a huge fan, obviously being a 90s kid, huge fan of Pokémon, and I never owned a Game Boy or Game Boy Color. So actually Pokémon was the first time I really got into emulators. It introduced me to emulators because I wanted to play Pokémon, and there were like websites advertising that you can now play Pokémon for free. Just download these files. And I was like, wow, I wanna play Pokémon. So I played Pokémon Blue and Pokémon Yellow, and eventually Pokémon Gold and Silver and Crystal with emulators. Although at some point I downloaded something that contained space filter virus, and it nuked our family computer. But yeah, it was great time, and I remember it was such a small file, both the emulator and the ROM file, that I put it on a diskette, and then took the diskette to school, and we played it on school computer. And I think we are finished Pokémon Gold in school, during recession or after the school. So yeah, good times. But yeah, I've never read the manual, so this will be interesting experience. Okay, there's 44 pages. Oh, it's actually listing all the Pokémon. So spoilers. Yeah, I think maybe it was a good thing that I didn't own the box, the manual, because everything was totally new and I didn't know anything what to expect. So it was complete blind back then. But I think I already quickly learned to use save states, so, or I'm not quite sure. It's been 25 years or more. So yeah. This is the red version of Pokémon. There are other versions too. The story and characters are the same for all versions. The differences between the versions are the type and probability of Pokémon appearances. To complete your collection, you will need to trade with a friend who has another version. Wait a second, this was supposed to be the blue version. I don't know. Well, whatever. Story. You are an 11-year-old boy living in Pallet Town with your mother. Your rival lives next door to you. You and your rival used to play nicely together when you were little. But lately he has become mean. He sees you as his rival because you are the same age and height. Okay. What's got the height to do with anything? When you hear that Professor Oak is a Pokémon expert, you get excited because you are a curious boy. You walk outside of Pallet Town in search of Pokémon, and you hear a voice. Hey, don't go into that grass! It's Professor Oak! So wait a second, you've been living in that town that has 4 buildings. One of them is Professor Oak, who's like the uncle of Gary. And where's the school? Surely you have visited Viridian City multiple times. I don't know, it doesn't have to make sense. Like Pallet Town has population of like 7 people if you don't, or 4 if you don't count the researchers. Pokélab. Yeah, I guess you know, there's more map than what you see in the game. Maybe you're just restricted to go beyond the borders, but there's probably like supposed to be like more buildings and towns. But you know, it doesn't try to be a simulation of real world. So you you shouldn't think too much about the details. Yeah, wild Pokemon living in there, he says. They can be very dangerous. I like this art style, red or ash, like we called him because of the anime. If you watch a strange Pokemon, you can let them fight against wild ones. Professor Oak takes you back to his lab where your rival is waiting. Professor Oak invited him because he is Professor Oak's grandson. Oh yeah, it's not his uncle. Professor Oak instructs you. There are 3 Pokemon here, so choose the one you like. Now that you have a Pokemon, the rest is up to you. Okay, that's all. Guess they don't wanna repeat the dialogue. Then what happens in the game? Got the world map. Spoilers. Yeah, they even show that you cannot go here until much later. Although you can actually get here, I think, after you get cut. But you need all the 8 badges in order to get to the Victory Road. Charmander. Underground. Safari Zone. Always like to do the missing no glitch. First going to Safari Zone and then the Cinnabar Island and go to the shore and get missing no another weird Pokemon from Safari Zone. World of Pokemon. I am Professor Oak. The document you are reading is the result of many years of studying Pokemon. I strongly suggest that you read this document thoroughly so you may become a Pokemon master. It's never like explained that you know, was Professor Oak in his youth like a Pokemon master, or I don't know what's the canon is today, but sometimes it feels like, you know, they pretend that Pokemon just appeared a couple of years ago or something. They don't know anything about them, and you have to do the research. Surely, if Pokemon's evolved with humans, they've been like millions of years. So surely there's been like lots of studying way before, and by other people than Professor Oak, decades and centuries before. So I think there's really not much more need to do any research, at least by 11-year-old. Was it 11-year-old? I always thought that. Yeah, I always thought he was 10. Oh, well, maybe it's Ash that's 10 in the anime. Here is 11. Yeah, it's usually, you know, in these kinds of kids games, it's always 10, 11 or 12. I don't know what they were in Digimon. I think the oldest ones were like 13 and the youngest ones were like 8. It's usually around that age. What are Pokémon? There are more than 100 Pokémon in existence. Yeah, I think that number has grown up since, which doesn't really make sense. Why would there appear new Pokémon that presumably have existed for all along? So why should the number increase? Because obviously, you know, in the later games, all the new Pokémons are like treated that they have always existed and are very commonplace, at least some of them. So I don't know what's the canon for explaining why the number of Pokémon seems to increase, and unless it's like different universe completely. It doesn't have to make any sense. The more they fight, the more powerful they become. The Pokémon having only simple attack techniques such as tackle or tail whip gain new stronger techniques like bite or water gun. Some Pokémon evolve and change in appearance. Here's the leading expert. Listen to his wise advice. Wise advice. Defeat 8 Pokémon leaders. In the world of Pokémon, there are many Pokémon trainers who raise Pokémon for fighting. Only 8 of these trainers are considered to be Pokémon leaders. You can find these leaders hanging out at the local gyms, training their Pokémon to become stronger. Yeah, I don't think so, because like Brock's Pokémons are level 15 or something. So, you know, if they would be training for all the time, they should be at level 100. If he's like been training for like years, because it only takes like 20 hours to raise one Pokemon to level 80 or more. If it's your like daily job, 40 hours a week, it should be very quick that your Pokemons are at level 100. These leaders are waiting for anyone who wants to challenge them. In order to complete your Pokédex, you must fight these leaders. Alright. I wonder how many badges they have, like in reserve. Like, what if there comes like a bunch of like 100 Pokemon students that all have like level 50 Pokemon. They went to fight against Brock and win obviously easily because of the level difference. And what if Brock only has like 30 badges left? Sorry, you can't have them. We have to order more badges. Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense canonically. Like, what prevents anyone who has level like 80 Pokemon challenging Brock for the first time? It will be quite unfair fight. I don't know. Maybe it's like the leaders actually have different leveled Pokemon, so you know they like adjust it by the challenger. So if it's a amateur or newbie, then they don't use their strongest ones. Although I don't know how in universe they check the level of your Pokemon. Maybe Pokédex is supposed to show it, and still it's very weird. How would you like what's physically different in an animal that has leveled up or has a certain level? How do you measure a levelness? It's very weird. But I think these Pokemon are partly like Digimon. They have like digital properties. I don't know. Complete your Pokédex. Your goal is to capture one of every Pokémon in the world to become a true Pokémon master. I don't actually know what happens if you collect all the Pokémon. Do you actually get some like special ending? Or maybe, I don't know, maybe I may have to check from YouTube what happens if there's like secret message from Pokemon Oak that if you get 151 Pokemon, including Mew, there's gonna be some special ending. I don't know. To reach this goal, all your findings must be recorded in your electronic encyclopedia called a Pokédex. All of the Pokemon data you find will be automatically recorded in your Pokédex. To catch Pokemon, you will need Pokeballs, which you may purchase from Pokemarts in most towns and cities. You will also need to trade Pokemon with friends who have a different version in order to complete your Pokédex. Yeah, obviously, when you play on emulators, you cannot do that. Yeah, I don't remember like many of my friends even having a Pokemon or Game Boy. I was quite popular because I was the first one or the only one who was like into emulators, so kind of like highlight of my childhood to provide this knowledge and allowing my friends to play Pokemon for the first time, and also like Pokemon Gold and Silver way before they were released in Finland. But yeah, I don't remember ever like seeing any cool students doing any trading. I think quite few actually had a Game Boy back in the day. I don't know. Maybe there were a couple of students, but they were not my friends. They were like younger. But anyway, okay, these are just like basic stuff. Yeah, erase. It's like to cry to hear a Pokemon crying. It's like, why crying? Are you like beating it? Like spanking it so it cries? But obviously crying means something else than just, tearing up from pain. But yeah, these early Game Boy cries, they were quite far from what you heard in the anime. And I was always annoyed by the fact that even Pokémon Stadium, which N64 could have proper samples, it still used the 8-bit cries from the Game Boy games and not the anime sounds. I don't know why. Maybe they didn't want to go through the trouble, and maybe they were missing some of the Pokemon cries, so they didn't have like full collection of 51 Pokemon cries for the stadium. But yeah, it was a little bit weird to hear those 8-bit sounds in Pokemon Stadium instead of like their anime sounds, which I guess also depends on the localized version, so they are different in Japan or German or English version. So maybe they just thought that yeah, we don't want to have different versions, so just use the Game Boy sounds. Tiny turtle. But yeah, the old 8 character limit. I wonder if the 8 character limit actually was the reason for some of the names. Just they had to keep them short, because longer names wouldn't be able to show now. Yeah, I think for the longer names they have to use like Bulbasaur. They have to skip some of the letters. Or Hitmonchan, I think it misses Hitmocha or something like that. Or Weeping Bell is like Bell without the E's. I'm currently 6 at the time. Yeah, I really like the Twitch plays Pokémon when a decade ago, when there was a big phenomenon. I remember watching the Twitch plays at the first stream quite early on, even before Cerulean City. It's kind of shame that the first days of that stream are now lost media, because no one recorded those. But yeah, it made some great lore. It was there was Lord Helix, Lord Helix, and also some of the names were just funny. And I remember those leches were always difficult, because usually when everyone were writing the input, Red would just hop down off the ledge. So some of those took hours to get past. And also I think, was it some of the gyms or Team Rocket hideout were those teleports or twisty or conveyor belt floor tiles. It just took so long to get past those in Twitch plays. But yeah, that was great to be there and see it when it happened, because that was kind of big thing. Okay. Yeah, and toss was so dangerous thing in Twitch plays, because it was so easy to just accidentally toss your items and even toss some and release some of the Pokémon, at least on the first generation. Blastoise. You can switch to another Pokémon in your current group. In this mode, even if you defeat your opponent's Pokémon, you must use the same Pokémon to continue fighting. Oh! I didn't know that there was this kind of option. I just went with the default. I guess this is like, you know, more hardcore mode. I don't know. Maybe some of these rules are taken from like Dungeons and Dragons, but you know, it can't be said that, you know, Pokémon was my first RPG experience, and probably it was for many others as well. You know, I hadn't played any like, you know, Final Fantasy games before that or anything, or Super Mario RPG or Chrono Trigger, because those were not even released in Europe, so I missed those as well. So yeah, for sure this was the first RPG I ever played, and I can say honestly that it was a good introduction to RPG, because it was quite simple in terms of like leveling up, and instead of mana we have PP, and the items are quite easy to understand, although I never like really understood those like X attack or iron or protein. I never used those, and usually my tactic when I played the game was just leveling up one Pokémon to like a very high level, and then just beat the crap out of all trainers until of course you meet a trainer or gym leader that you have like immunity for example a ghost type, or maybe you are started with water type and then you're fighting against electric type, so you are even if you're 10 levels or 15 levels over the enemy, you still cannot win. But yeah, I usually just train my opening Pokemon like to the limit. Obviously, if you go to a certain limit, your Pokemon won't obey you anymore, but that never happened actually. Let's begin. Your quest to become a Pokemon Master begins here. Explore the town before heading north after leaving your house. Go visit your rival and Professor Oak. Talk to everyone you see. Yeah, good advice for any RPG. People will help you along in a way, so don't miss anything. Yeah, they can give you things like HMs or TMs or Rod. Where you live, you and your rival grew up playing together and had a great friendship until he became competitive and mean. Your rival lives here. Since you were once great friends, maybe there's a chance you two can work things out. Yeah, I don't think Gary is mean. He's just a brag and egocentric. Always like, smell you later. Need to find Professor Oak, but he's not in his lab. As you try to leave town, Professor Oak stops you. Hey, wait, don't go out. Soon enough, you're standing in Professor Oak's lab. Select your Pokemon. Choose wisely. Difficulty of your game? Well, not really. It's just the same game. Except your rival has always the advantage. First time players start with Bulbasaur, the grass type Pokemon. These are more successful in attacking rock type Pokemon. Yeah, if you wanna beat Brock easily, but it doesn't really help in the long run. I think Charizard is, or Charmander is probably the best one. Although it's not good for Brock, but or Misty, but then it becomes quite powerful. And you know, he can fly. Although I usually had like one Pokemon that I was just teaching all HMs because I didn't want to waste like my best Pokemon for some HM like Cut or Surf or Flash. But, I mean, Surf was quite useful as in a battle, but some of the HM moves were quite useless in a battle. So there was probably one Pokemon you want to teach all like HM moves and reserve like good TM moves for your fighter Pokemon. Danger! Wild Pokemon. You will travel north into the grassy area where you will run into many wild Pokemon. You will find wild Pokemon. Rattata attacks with a vicious bite, small and very quick. It's a common sight in many places. But your first battle. Peachy. Pokemon wins, it will receive experience points. At this point you will not be able to capture a wild Pokemon, you can only fight for experience points. When you get to Viridian City you may purchase Pokeballs at the Pokemart. You can't get in here yet because it's closed. Is it? I don't think it's closed. But you cannot go much further. Also, you fight against Gary again, so you wanna probably have a couple of Pokemon. And Route 2 is blocked by the old man. The shopkeeper will have a package for me, which I'm expecting back at the lab. Pokemon Center. Link Cable Club. It's interesting, like it's like Pokemon Crystal, you know, Gold and Silver. There was like online functionality, which only worked in Japan. You know, with the Game Boy modem or cellular network. But yeah, I don't think it was a great success even in Japan. Access this computer to deposit or withdraw. Someone PC will be known as Bill's PC as later in the game. Spoilers. Carry up to 20 at a time. Yeah, it's always these early games have such a strict limitation. That's why I hate some games like the first Resident Evil or Earthbound, because you know there's so many items but you cannot carry any of them because of the limitation of your backpack. It is almost like a game guide. I used to have like I think it was Pokemon Yellow, or maybe it was Pokemon Blue. I think it was Pokemon Yellow game guide. I probably still have it somewhere. It's probably missing pages and torn and worn out completely. I used to use it I used to like know it by heart. And I think also had some kind of guide. I think it was Games Master guide for Pokemon Yellow and 10 for Pokemon Gold and Silver. But I think there was like other guidebooks as well. But you know, this manual seems to have at least some shortened version of the guide. You can see items on the other side of these trees. How do you get them? You'll have to come back later. Yeah, I think the game was designed very, very well back that, you know, you could backtrack. Well, not immediately, because I think you need to, when you go to the Mount Moon, you cannot backtrack anymore, and you cannot get to Pallet Town. But yeah, when you revisit Viridian Forest, this route, you know, there's more things to discover. So it's a very nicely designed, or even like backtracking, or you know, it's almost like Metroidvania type of things that you like discover new things when you get stronger and get new skills. Use the Pokeball. You will need to use Pokeballs to capture wild Pokemon. It will work best if you get its energy down as far as possible, but not all the way. Try a Pokemon who has the ability to put wild Pokemon to sleep. Once it's sleeping, throw a Pokeball to capture it. And there's not many Pokemon who can put sleep. I think Drowsy and Hypno had that skill. Well, obviously, maybe you could buy like TM. For that, but yeah. And yeah, I remember there was like many rumors that you have to press A at a certain moment when the ball moves for the first time, or just when it closes. Then you will catch the Pokemon 100% time. I still don't know to this date if any of those rumors were correct, or were they just like nonsense. I don't think you can actually manipulate the probability anyway by pressing buttons. It's not like Mario RPG where you if you time your button press correctly, you get like double damage or something. As you play, the wild Pokemon you will meet will get stronger. You may need to throw more than one Pokeball to capture them, or get Master Ball and use it for Peachy. I think there was also like some kind of glitches and hints that you can get like you can clone Master Balls or something. I don't know. I think there are quite lots of like glitches in the game, but the only glitch I was aware of was that the missing go glitch. The Viridian Forest is full of danger, as wild Pokemon lurk in the grassy areas. We also find plenty of other Pokemon trainers here. It's a great area to practice your fighting skills. Oh, they are even showing what's inside of these items. Metapod. When you battle other Pokemon trainers, you earn money, and your Pokemon gain experience points. Pokemon trainer may have 1 to 6 trained Pokemon, so it's a good idea for you to have 6. You will not be able to capture Pokemon from other Pokemon trainers. That would be quite mean thing to do. Yeah, even with Master Ball, you cannot capture one's Pokemon. Well, that's a waste of Master Ball. If you have collected 6 Pokemon, raise their levels evenly. Let each of your Pokemon have a turn in battle, so you may want to collect 6 different types of Pokemon. Yeah, you probably shouldn't have 6 Metapods, or 6 Cater, or 6 6 what's the Pokemon where the Gyarados evolves from? The fish Pokemon. Come on. Can't remember the name now, but anyway. Yeah, this was still before Pikachu became a mascot for the whole series. Yeah, he was quite tubby in his old form. I think nowadays Pokemon, or at least Ash's Pikachu, is quite slender. Magikarp, yeah. Pewter Gym, Pokécenter, Pokemart. When you visit the museum, you can learn about extinct Pokemon. The information is saved to your Pokédex, so you will remember what you learned. You have to fight against another trainer in this gym before you fight Brock. Potions. Brock uses Rock-type Pokemon. You will have an easier time defeating him with Grass or Water-type Pokemon. Yeah, I don't think you can get Water-type Pokemon anywhere. Unless you selected Squirtle. Yeah. Water Pokemon with higher experience than levels than other types when battling Brock's Rock-type Pokemon. Yeah, I always remember Onyx being quite difficult to beat. The adventure goes on. There is so much more than what has been described in the previous pages. You must talk to all of the people that you find throughout your quest to become the world's greatest Pokemon trainer. Game Corner. They say that Team Rocket has something to do with this gaming area. Check it out. Safari Zone. This is a great place to capture Pokemon and you will definitely get what you pay for. Fishing. There are 3 different different rods that allow you to catch many different water Pokemon. Fish everywhere. Daycare Center. The Pokemon Daycare Center will watch one of your Pokemon and raise it level while you're away. And one thing that was interesting, that you can choose not to evolve your Pokemon. So I don't know what's the advantage for that. Why would you want to have level 70 Bulbasaur? I don't know. Pokemon leader Sabrina. Yeah, I always liked the anime. Obviously, as a kid, the anime was probably my favorite TV show ever up to that point. And I think there was some great episodes. And the anime was very funny. There's lots of humor, and the Finnish voice actors were just having a great time. You can hear they were great for the first season. Then they kind of changed some of the voice actors, and then level of the voice acting went down, but yeah, I have some great nostalgic memories from the anime. Yeah, I think maybe my favorite episode is obviously the battle for the badge, where we see Mewtwo for the first time. It was like a preview for the Pokémon movie, which then came out, I think, in maybe like May 2000. And I remember going to see the movie, and it was the best thing ever when you saw Mewtwo, and also in Pikachu's summer, or what was that short film that was before the movie. You know, you could see like new Pokemon, like Togepi and other Marill. So it was almost like mind-blowing experience to see like, wow, new Pokemon from next generation. And obviously you could see Ho-Oh from the first episode already. That was very epic moment. Really nice way to hook your viewers by giving some glimpse of what's coming in the future. Yeah, I haven't really watched the anime after seeing it as a kid 25 years ago, but still, I think it made my childhood very, very exciting. You know, a generation before me, you know, they had, you know, Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or He-Man. I've got Pokemon, so, you know, each generation has their own, you know, series. I don't know. I think you know, Pokemon is still, there are new seasons made each year, but I don't know how big it is nowadays. I don't even know if it's shown anywhere. You know, is it like streamed somewhere in Netflix or TV channels? I have no idea. You know, I stopped watching Pokemon, you know, when I went to high school. You know, it was suddenly the thing you loved the most became like kid stuff. So you didn't want to associate with Pokemon at all. You know, you started to hate Pokemon because it was for kids, because you wanted to be adult and cool. Nowadays, you know, I have streamed Pokemon and Pokemon Blue and Pokemon Sapphire or Ruby. So yeah, there's nothing like embarrassing of playing Pokemon, because it's, you know, it's part of my childhood. You'll find many interesting things during your quest. On the next couple of pages I have recorded some things I believe will make your quest more enjoyable. Pokemon box. If your box is full, you need to access computer into a box. Yeah, that's very annoying that you catch a Pokemon and then it's full. It's not like automatically. Changed or dynamically changed. That's one of those Generation 1 annoyances, that you have to manually change the box in order to catch more Pokémon. Hidden machine instead of technical machines. That's what it's called. Always just thought it was HM, without knowing what it stands for. Machine. Yeah, it's just a HM move, and then like, what kind of machine? What's the physical properties of this machine? It's some kind of like gadget that like beeps or have buttons. Doesn't really make sense to call them machines. I was always like thinking that they are like some kind of like, I don't know, digital, brainwave things that you can just put it in the brain of Pokemon, or like have a ray gun that the Pokemon will learn the move in a flash or in an instant. I don't know what's the in-universe explanation for learning new moves, or in anime. I don't think in anime they never like really like explained how Pokemon learn new moves. I don't think there were any of these machines shown. I think it's just like somehow just learned new moves, but I don't think they used any of TMs or HMs. These nicknames. I usually didn't use any nicknames because I just wanted to call them what they are called, and not to confuse myself too much. Yeah, stopped evolving, but why? What's the use? You may collect Pokemon in many different ways. Please study these pages. Wild Pokemon event. Yeah, I never. Oh, they mean like in the game, but yeah, they were like these also like real life events where they would give you like Pokemon, but with a transfer. I think that was the only way to get to Mew, was to go like Nintendo event and win something, or and get a Mew from the Nintendo officials. I think there were a couple of them even in Finland, but I think they were so rare that it was just, you had to be in Helsinki for a certain day, and if you missed, well, tough luck. I think in Japan they probably were there were like weekly events that you could get new Pokemon, but yeah. Pokemon that appear only once. Yeah, just like Zapdos, Moltres and Articuno. We'll never have a chance to capture it again. Yeah, they should like have a info that if you accidentally kill like Zapdos, you should just reset the console and not save, and save often. Weedle evolves to Kakuna. Into Kakuna. Types of Pokemon. It's like a large-scale version of the game Rock, Paper, Scissors. Rock is strong against fire. Yeah, it was quite logical but I think there was some illogical things as well. Like ice. Ice is strong against flying and ground. Why? It's not that logical. Or ice is strong against rock. Oh, wait a second. Oh, wait a second. Which way this is? Fire is strong against grass. Bug. Ice is strong against grass. Ground. Flying, yeah. I mean, you had to memorize some of these. Or just learn by trial and error, you know. Some of them are like no-brainers, but not all of them are like something you can like deduce easily. Like, why would psychic be strong against poison or dragon? Dragon isn't great for anything except dragon. Also, being poor is or bad. Sometimes it means like it's immune. Like, I think, yeah, normal should be immune. Or a ghost should be immune against normal, so yeah. PP. Game over. Last Pokémon Center you used. Half of your Pokémon money will be gone. What if you didn't use Pokémon Center? Yeah, it's probably not wise to go to new city and then not go to Pokémon Center. Game link cable. Yeah, I never got to witness this one because I only had an emulator. Oh. So this was this I have never seen this in action. Colosseum. Techniques. Yeah, sing. Yeah, obviously you can use Jigglypuff or Clefairy, which I think are normal type in this game, but I think they are fairy type in later games. Master Ball. 100 of the time, except if you use it for your rivals Pokemon. Safari Ball. Helix. You will need to find the secret of this item. Amber. I don't actually remember what the old Amber is for. Max Revives is very useful for Elite 4 fight. Yeah, some of these I actually never used because I really didn't understand what's the dire hit or guard spec. I never used this because I didn't know what the hell is special attack. What's the difference between normal attack and special attack? Is like special attack is supposed to be like TM attack. It wasn't explained enough so that a kid like me would understand all the uses for these. So I rarely, used any of these items. Except rare candy or HP up. Oh, and your Rebel, of course, when you are in the Mount Moon. You don't want to fight those Zubats all the time. Pokédoll. Try using it during battle. Yeah, some of these I actually never really used that much. Like Experience All. Well, I think that was kind of useful when you only had one strong Pokemon. Soda Pop. You just want to use potions or max potion instead. Then we have Pokemon's. It's missing something. They're not revealing everything. It's supposed to be Caterpie. No, Caterpie, Metapod, Butterfree. Beetle Kakuna, Beedrill, Pidgeotto, Pidgeot, Rattata, Raticate, Sparrow, Featherer. This I don't know. Pikachu, Raichu, Nidoran, Nidorina, Nidoking, Clefable, Jigglypuff, Jigglytuff, Zubat, Golbat, Paros. Yeah, once I had to memorize all the Pokemon. I could name them all in order. Nowadays, no chance. Paros. Parasite, I can't remember. Diglett, Duck Trio, Psyduck, Golduck, Poliwag, Poliwrill, Poliwag, Abracadabra, Machop, Machamp, Tentacool, Tentacruel, Geodude, Graveler, Golem, Ponyta, Rapidash, Slowpoke, Slowbro, Magnemite, Magnetron, Doduo, Seal, Colwyn, Grimer, Muck, Shelder, Cloyster, Ghastly, Gengar, Haunter, Drowsy, Hypno, Krabby, Voltorb, Electrode, Executor, Cubone. What was that? Wheel, Weedbone, something. Weezing, Rhydon, Horsey, Seeking. Darius, Darmy, Magikarp, Gyarados, Eevee, Vaporeon, Jolteon, Umbreon. No, that's Generation 2. Lameron, or something like that. And Mewtwo. Alright. Well, I guess I can read... oh, there's the guide. I think this by Nintendo Power, but I had the Games Master guide. Yeah, I guess next time I could read maybe Pokémon Gold and Silver manual as well. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye bye.